it's finally here. I am definitely late to things, but Remake 4 has arrived. I was actually worried with the announcement to this game. I don't think it's needed at all. For prep, I've actually been playing through the original game for a bit, and it's still fucking fun. I've had issues readjusting to controls, only because I've been using this Retro Fighter GameCube controller, and trying to figure out what controls does what. I still have some sort of muscle memory, even though I've never played the GameCube version, but it's not a big deal in the long run. I know people will have an issue with the tank controls, but they're fine. Really, the only thing newer players will be bugged by is not being able to move and shoot at the same time. I think this wasn't added until Resident Evil 6? Maybe Revelations? I'm actually not entirely sure. Even then, this game works fine without it. And it's also really fun. It's probably close to what one would call the perfect game, at least in my opinion. Now, to reiterate, when this remake was announced, I practically shit myself, and this was right off of me beating Remake 3. That game fucking blows, and because of the quality of that, I was expecting this to be a fucking train wreck. From my understanding, that game was developed by a B team. Sorry to those developers, B team may have not been the best words, but the A team, the ones who worked on 7, 8, and Remake 2, are the ones that developed this game. In fact, they were actually working on Village's DLC, Shadows of Rose, until they got put onto this game. Kind of explains why Shadows of Rose was dull. Still creepy as all hell with the mannequin shit, but still kind of dull. Now with that news, it did alleviate some of my worry, though the key word is some of my worry. And so far, since this intro is written before I've beaten the game, it's fine. I've been streaming the game. I think I'm about like halfway through at the time of writing this part, and it has great twists for the veteran, but for me, I don't think it's a better version. Part of the main issue is to focus on horror. Now, I love horror games, but I don't think it was a good idea to focus on horror here. Not saying the original didn't have moments where it directly focused on horror, the regenerators still scare the shit out of me even with the thermal scope, but I like the original's campy nature more. It's a good thing I still have the original to fall back on, though at the end of the day I am curious on why 4 was selected for the remake treatment. Well yeah, the original is outdated gameplay wise, I think Code Veronica would have worked better. I never played it, but I heard it was just I really think that game should be the next remake, not 5 or 6, and when it comes down to 5, it's not because of its setting. I really hope no one thinks that. While those two games have their issues in a lot of fans' eyes, 5 is still a good game, and 6 is boring. It would be cool to see what they could have done for Code Veronica, but that's unfortunately not the world we live in. The world we live in is the one filled with parasites, and I'm not talking about YouTube prank channels, but Resident Evil 4 2023. A couple of years after the events of the second game, Leon is now working for the government, sent to some place in Spain to save Ashley Graham, the daughter of the current president in their world. He's helped by 2 local cops, and when one of them disappears during a bathroom break, Leon goes to investigate. Coming across a shack with an old man that's trying to kill him, Leon puts him down and finds a disappeared cop dead. Huh. Great job there, Leon. You can't really worry about that since a villager came back to life, and after putting him down, something happens to the other cop and the shack is raided. Leon escapes and comes across a village where he sees the fate of the other cop. After surviving the onslaught of villagers and saying that iconic line,
"Where's everyone going? Bingo?"
Leon eventually tracks down Ashley in a random church, though not before encountering 2 people. The first is Luis Serra, a former Umbrella scientist looking to escape this hellhole, and the other is Chief Mendez. Leon and Ashley escapes to a nearby castle where they meet Ramon Salazar, and the two eventually get separated, which just made my day so much better. Oh fuck, that is irony on a fucking plate. Leon also somehow comes across Ada Wong in perfect shape. She escapes and we unfortunately get reunited with Ashley. However, that thankfully doesn't last for long as a trap is sprung. When we catch up, she's forced to drink this black sludge and is transported somewhere else, while Leon gets tossed down a hole. He reunites with Luis as he gives Leon something to halt the spread of the virus of the week, Las Plagas, and they eventually come across Jack Krauser, Leon's mentor during his military training, and he ends up killing Luis. Though before his last breath, Luis gives Leon the key to his lab. Leon catches up to Ashley only for her to be transported somewhere else. I am suddenly reminded of Skyward Sword and I don't know why. He deals with Salazar and gets help from Ada, and finally saves Ashley, though she gets kidnapped again, for fuck's sakes. But Leon puts Krauser down, saves Ashley for the final time, kills off Saddler with the help of Ada, and is completely oblivious to Ashley's flirting. Maybe he's gonna continue the Redfield bloodline, we all know Chris would want that. The retold story is fine. The one thing I really love is that they flesh Luis out with him being an umbrella scientist. He was one of my favorite RE characters, and him not getting impaled by tentacle off-brand is a great change because he just disappeared after the house raid. Another great change is Saddler not fucking telling Leon what his plan is, even for a B-movie story that never sat right with me. Like in the original, Saddler just flat out fucking told the two about the Plagas in them and the fact that he wanted her to be infected. This time around, he's just trying to make sure Ashley is turned. Though what I really fucking miss are the Kodak calls between Leon and the enemies. I find this to be a really enjoyable part of the original, but here, after he gets cut off from Hunnigan, his Kodak calls are with Luis and Ada and that's it. It's just disappointing. You still get one of the enemies messing with Leon with Salazar and his pipe thing, but that's really it. Now I may not like the extra focus on horror here, but you know what? I gotta give the game this. I love the boss fights. They are fucking top tier. To the first El Gigante fight to the creepy right hand fight, to this day I don't know the fuck you're saying. 90% of these bosses are really fun to fight against. The 10% is Salazar and Saddler. Starting off with Salazar, I just never liked the fight with him in the original. After my first death, I said fuck it and bought a rocket launcher and never looked back ever since. Here, he's just jumping each way and all around, and it's kinda hard to get a hit on him. Though the bigger issue I have with him are these sludge mines. Ironically enough, these are the only things that make this boss not complete and total shit, because they can actually contain resources, which is fan-fucking-tastic, because I was actually very low in resources when I got to him. I should have died multiple times, but I somehow got fucking lucky. Though again, they may have helped me, but I'm just not a fan of them because I actually tripped over them while trying to track Salazar down. It's not a deal breaker in the long run, it's just, this boss is boring and with the sludge mines a tad bit annoying. But now that I think about it, probably should see if the original fight is bad or not. First played the game in middle school, so I guess it's a skill issue. Saddler, well, he was just boring. Looking back, his fight in the original wasn't anything to write home about, but the addition of the Novicidors was cool, but amounted to, well, nothing. They helped with resources, especially when Saddler destroyed a bridge with stuff that I should have nabbed when I had the chance. Fuck, I actually kick myself to this day, but I think Saddler took a majority of them out, while I killed like, I want to say 2. This really could have added to the stress factor with this boss, where there was really none. Like, no extra challenge to it, though in general, dealing with some V-stores was actually pretty good, doubly so since they didn't turn completely invisible like before. More camouflage like a chameleon, and getting blindsided from them is a non-issue, a majority of the time. They did scare the shit out of me regardless, but even then, to focus on this boss and this boss only at the moment, not a fan. That's really about it, so. Though I had issues with aiming in this game, and you know what? I gotta blame Splatoon on that. Odd thing to focus on, I know, and I also know what longtime viewers will roast my ass for, and it's a fact that I said in my review of the first Splatoon game that I don't like using motion controls. But here's the thing, I've gotten back into using motion controls, and I'm starting to wish companies embraced it more, not just because of Nintendo still using Wii Motion Plus technology. No, it's probably under a different name by now, however, I'm still gonna call it that. But I think the DualSense also has motion aim in it as well, and I just fucking love it. It gets me my kills as the king of Splatlings, and I wish it was in more stuff. I would definitely buy this on PC for motion aim, though Old Blue does need some upgrades, but hey, I don't want to go through the hoops to use it. I don't like keyboard and mouse either, so it's not an option for me. My arm always feels dead when I try to use it.
Sir? There is motion aim. I was trying to get you before you finished recording, but you finished recording.
No shit, really? Okay, let me test that out real quick. And you know what? It works really well, though I'm not that big of a fan of it, but that's just because of how much I love Splatoon's motion aim. Again, hypocrite, I get it, but I'm expecting the camera to work the same there, like only left and right works with the C-stick while aiming each way and all around with the motion. Though there, the motion aim controls the camera all the time, but then again, there's no aim button in Splatoon. So, yeah. The system is great, and it's pretty fucking fun to use. It really got my kills faster than usual. Well, only with Hunk, if I'm gonna be honest. He's the only way I found out there was a finite amount of enemies and mercenaries. But, yeah, all of the mercenaries footage was filmed with motion aim. Though, again, those two bosses are only ones I didn't like. The others, again, are top tier, though not that big of a fan of the double Gigante fight. Still fun, but getting them in the lava was a tad bit annoying, and when I realized I had to shoot the dynamite when the armored fuck was on the trap door, I just felt like the biggest fucking idiot in the world. Thankfully, I figured it out after the first death at that point and made sure that fucker took a lava bath. But the first Gigante fight had the same energy I felt with the original fight. So chaotic and blood pumping. Trying to get that fucking parasite was a pain in the ass, however, but you know what? Still fun, and I love that the devs still had that wolf to help. Now, that was something I would have been pissed that they didn't implement. I love dogs and cats, more of a dog person, but still love these creatures. And when I heard the rumors that the dog was unsavable, I was about to book a trip to Japan. You don't do that shit to me unless you want to be vented. My favorite boss is the right hand, who is apparently called Verdugo? Verdugo? I don't know. That's probably horribly botched, but you know, fuck it. My English isn't good anyway, so any Spanish I speak is going to be shit regardless. This still had that scary atmosphere that the original had, and the darker areas does wonders for it. Verdugo is just as agile as before, and using the liquid nitrogen on him still felt as satisfying as before. Love this fucking boss. He will always be one of my favorite bosses, though kinda wish we still had the QTEs for him. Now the Gyarados, those are fucking fun to fight against. Just like before, the blind has bad, and sound is your #1 fake friend. It can screw you over or help you. Fucking love the first fight where they put the chains all around to screw you over, but when they had the room with 2 of them and regular enemies running around, it actually got me killed more often than not. Thinking back in both versions, kinda wish this area only had the 2 Gyarados, but even then, on the attempt I actually got them dead, I thought they were still kicking. Shot the bell a couple of times to lure them out, and nothing. Talk about feeling like a fucking idiot. Though my favorite boss in this version is the Chainsaw Sisters. They may have not kept all the camp from the original, but I can definitely forgive Capcom with Leon doing a fucking backflip to avoid them. This was perfect. I was actually going to call this a horrible boss, but that was until I found out you can actually escape the room and fight these ladies, along with the random Ganados that spawn outside. Speaking of being a fucking idiot, I think I died like 5 times, and the best part is I broke the locks on my first attempt. Talk about hindsight being 2020. The only boss I'm surprised wasn't here was it. Like, they wanted to go for a more horror experience, but what's more horror than it? I can really see it being a perfect enemy for this remake. Its design is really creepy, but add on the time limit with the different compartments on this thing, no clue what you would call it, it would have been perfect. Even then, regular encounters are just hit and miss. One of them that I really loved was the introduction of the pighead guys. They're apparently called the Brute, which is kind of a generic name there, guys. But that was because it was a fantastic change to one of these areas in the village. But even then, didn't care for a lot of these, especially in the village. The beginning one is perfect, however. A fantastic recreation of the original encounter, but outside of that, just didn't like a lot of them here. Really hate that they kept a section with a fucking underwater bridge that you have to protect Ashley in. Though speaking of which, never hated her in the original. I want to say that right here and right now. Hate her here though. The wait and follow commands is a really good system. Really loved it. But the tight and loose formations just does not cut it for me. The names of the formations are self-explanatory. Loose has Ashley stay afar to avoid enemy attacks, while Tight has her stick close. I hate this. For starters, I get the game wants us to use them both in tandem, but to me, there's no real room for experimentation, and because of that, she stayed tight throughout the whole entire game.
What?
But the fucking breaking point for me was the start of that damn castle. Fuck this area. Just like before, they have these fucking catapults, and she just got hit multiple times during my initial playthrough. She doesn't stick with you at all in tight formation, which is my biggest sticking point with it. I actually think I killed her thanks to that, but unfortunately, she doesn't have an HP meter. Yeah, I said unfortunately because she can't take a fucking hit whatsoever anymore. I get it, she isn't a fighter, but at least with the HP meter, she can take more than one hit. One good hit and she's incapacitated, meaning you gotta pick her up Gears of War style. In hindsight, it doesn't seem like you have to pick her up after all the enemies are gone, but I didn't want to take the fucking chance, and this is what caused some of my deaths in my first playthrough. I'm just not a fan of the system, will never be a fan of it whatsoever. Then again, I'm not a fan of the 2023 version of her in general, so yeah, just give me the fucking 2005 version of her any day of the week. And I do find it funny because of how many people just started simping after her when she was revealed in the trailers for this stuff. And then again, me personally,
I'm into Asian chicks.
Which, speaking of which, love Ada's new look. Wish she was still in that dress from the original, but when it comes down to the graphics, in general, just reject realism, embrace weird. But in general, the graphics are perfect for that horror atmosphere. Fucking love dealing with regenerators. In fact, my favorite section is when they're in these bag things at the end. I actually thought they were a required fight, but no, thankfully no. Thanks to the loading screen, I was able to avoid them, and I was fucking scared as shit to bump into one of these bags. I literally had a fucking heart attack trying to avoid them. Though, now that I think about it, I really don't understand why I couldn't see the Plagas in them. The method to kill the regenerators is exactly the same, using the thermal scope to seek out the Plagas in their body. But in the section where you have to find the wrench, you can see the Plagas in them. Though in the body bags, there's no Plagas to be found. That's really consistent there, guys. Though that's a petty complaint, because these guys are still as creepy as ever, and when those specific ones digivolve into that Iron Maiden, that was a perfect fucking surprise. One thing I really hate is that the knife can outbreak. Like, I get it's most likely to balance out the fact that you can use it to block pretty much anything, including Dr. Salvador's chainsaw. I just don't like it. But doing that and doing those stealth kills will damage the knife over time. You can find random knives to use that'll break after a while, and the merchant can repair the starter combat knife and Krauser's knife, but again, it really shouldn't have been a thing in my opinion. And trust me, I get why it is a thing in general in this game, it's just a personal preference. Hell, I was actually playing Breath of the Wild a bit before, and I still hated there. Again, I heavily understand why it's like that, but it just bugs the shit out of me. I do love that you can upgrade the knife to give it more power and better durability. In fact, upgrading works just like before, nothing really different except for the odd fact that you can't fully max shit out for a bit. I tilted my head at that fact when the merchant said he can further upgrade my stuff, though I would be bitching if I couldn't upgrade my shit in general, so yeah, like, I shouldn't complain about that. However, I'm not sure I like what they did with the spinels this time around. They aren't for selling anymore, they're for trading. The merchant has multiple notes with different conditions to get these spinels, and you can trade them for different items that he has available. The only reason why I don't like this is because of how they're handled. Because if I'm getting these from the merchant, then what's the logic on trading them back in? There are some spread across the field to find, but maybe I'm just thinking way too much about it. I only bring it up because I love the TMP. I stuck with it in this game even though there's new automatics to take advantage of, and I guess I'm just bugged that its stock is locked behind this. Same for the Red 9. I heard wonders of this gun in the original and thought to try it out for myself in this game, but its stock is also exclusive to the trading ship. Just
shut up and take my money.
Regardless, crafting makes a return from Village and works the same way as you would expect. The only good thing about it returning is being able to have multiple flashbangs on hand. You can still find them, but having the ability to craft them makes sure that the Plagas won't get me that easily. Like, no joke, I died multiple times to the Crawler Plagas during the Ashley Wrecking Ball thing, which, what kind of fucking driver's edge did she have? Because I am fucking jealous. But when they came out, if I didn't have a flashbang on hand or wasn't able to find them on the ground, I love that I can craft them so, you know, the sport can become a non-issue. The gameplay here can still be pretty fun, but I still prefer the original in terms of gameplay. And speaking of which, I should also take a look at the Mercenaries mode. I skipped this separate ways in assignment Ada in the original, mainly because I just didn't care. The main game was more than enough for me. But hey, a new Mercenaries dropped and I may as well look at it. After unlocking everything, it's fine. The goal in this version of Mercenaries is to just get a high score. Killing enemies does that, and by getting combos, you get more time added so you can rack up the kills. Those time boosters and items to refill your special meter. Eventually, stronger enemies will arrive to the scene to kick your ass. And at the end of the day, this mode's fine. I barely bother with these side modes, but I did have some fun. primarily with Hunk. He only has an automatic, and you can only get ammo for the automatic, but damn did I mow down a lot of these fuckers. Every character has a special, and he just gets infinite ammo for a finite amount of time, and oh, it's fucking awesome. This is great when you just want to run through like a fucking madman. The others, not a fan. Krauser does have his explosive bow and arrow that can clear out a room, but I really wish I could find more ammo for it. Probably looking in the wrong places, but still couldn't find any. I really don't like his special. It's slow moving and works way too close to the enemy for comfort. It does kill enemies in one go, so there's that. I really don't like Luis either. Him having a bolt action sucks for a rifle, and I really wish he had a shotgun as well. His dynamite special does help, but I'm just not a fan of his loadout. Leon is well-rounded with his loadout. Love that he has his riot gun that keeps its energy at further distances. He gets a speed and damage boost for his special that can really rack up the kills with a handgun, but yeah, I just mainly stick with Hunk if I'm gonna play this mode. You can actually unlock special weapons to use in the main game with this mode, but yeah, I don't really care. Unless I'm gonna stream this game with friends, I don't think I'm gonna bother with it. It's a nice time waster, but that's really about it. For those of you who can't afford the current gen or just couldn't give a shit like me, which at the time being is PS5 and Series X, nor have the specs to run on PC, the previous generation runs the game just fine. Textures are muddier, but they still look fine. Hell, it runs at a perfect 60 frames on the upgraded forms. Yeah, I've been playing on a PS4 Pro, and I think I made sure to turn on boost mode when I set the system up. However, I didn't really notice any drops. The RE engine is perfect for older systems because I looked up the frame rate comparisons of Village, and it runs really well. Still prefer more unique looking games like Persona 5 Battle for Bikini Bottom, and hell, even Star Fox Avengers. All those still hold up graphically, but I do gotta stop bitching about that. There's great atmosphere here, especially at the beginning with the first Ganado and those fucking regenerators. They're still fucking terrifying like before, but even then, not everything got to me. I would have thought Ashley's section would have been terrifying, but no. In fact, it was boring. It was way too easy to dodge shit. And the sound design just really isn't the same, especially in the original where you heard that whining or whatever it is. None of the music really terrified me like before. In fact, it was boring. In terms of voices, I'm not really a fan of Salazar. It's mainly because his accent sounds so fake. Like, not fake in a way that I can enjoy any cheesiness from it, like how the original was, I think, but fake in the sense that it just does not sound right. I also didn't like Ada. She sounds so fucking bored. Is this a new actress?
12 seconds later.
Okay, it is a new actress. What the fuck was wrong with the previous one? She sounded perfect as Ada. Well, regardless, I don't know if it's the actress herself not caring, bad direction, or audio editors using the bad takes on purpose, but her performance just isn't good. Though at the end of the day, I'll give this game a 6. It's not my cup of tea, and it has its great moments, but I would really rather play the original, which apparently got ported to VR, while also removing lines for idiotic reasons. But there you go. There's a decent way to experience it. Just if you play the original game, play with a controller, not the keyboard and mouse or the Wii remote and nunchuck. Again, it's personal preference, but it just doesn't feel right playing a tank control game with controls like that. Even then, the remake is still pretty fun. I still enjoyed it. It just does not hold a candle to the original. If you do want to play it, it's on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series X, and the PC. Even then, I hope the next remake is in 5, just because I would rather bad games get the remake treatment. Again, not sure if Code Veronica is actually bad, but I would think that would be better for a remake. I know it's a double-edged sword. I mean, we saw how butchered Remake 3 was, but let's give Code Veronica another chance. Regardless, my friends, I'll see you next time with Avataro Sentai Dawn Brothers. I forgot I have to make that video. Well, until then, my friends, have a nice morning, day, night, afternoon, whatever time it is for you at the moment, and take care.